The wind howled through the pine trees that encircled the isolated cabin where Sarah and her friends had decided to spend their weekend. Nestled deep in the Navajo reservation, the cabin was a relic from another time, built by Sarah's great-grandfather. It was a place where the modern world felt far away, replaced by the ancient rhythm of the land and the whispering winds that carried old secrets. The group of 5 had come for a weekend of relaxation and adventure, hiking, storytelling by the campfire, and perhaps a little exploration of the nearby caves. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and writhe, a sense of unease settled over them. "Have you ever heard the story of the Skinwalkers?" Sarah asked, her voice low and tinged with apprehension as they gathered around the fire. Her friends, intrigued by the dark tone, urged her to continue. "It's an old legend among the Navajo," she began. "Skinwalkers are witches or evil shamans who have the power to transform into any animal they desire. They use this ability to harm others, to cause fear and chaos. They wear the skins of the animals they transform into, and it's said you can recognize them by their eyes. They never change, no matter what shape they take." Her friend Jake scoffed, trying to lighten the mood. "Sounds like something out of a horror movie." Sarah smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Maybe, but my great-grandfather always warned us to be careful, to respect the land and the spirits. He said that if you hear your name whispered on the wind at night, you should never answer. It's the Skinwalkers calling." The fire crackled, casting eerie shadows that danced on the faces of the listeners. A chill ran through the group despite the warmth of the flames, and an uneasy silence settled over them. Later that night, Sarah lay in her sleeping bag, staring at the wooden ceiling. The wind had picked up, its mournful howl seeping through the cracks in the cabin walls. She could hear the rustling of leaves, the creak of branches swaying in the breeze, and something else, something that sounded almost like a voice. "Sarah." Her blood ran cold. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but there it was again, drifting on the wind. "Sarah." She sat up, heart pounding, and glanced around the darkened room. Her friends were fast asleep, their steady breathing the only reassurance in the oppressive night. She tried to convince herself it was just the wind, or a trick of her tired mind. "Sarah." This time it was unmistakable. The voice was closer, more insistent. She clutched her sleeping bag, every instinct screaming at her to stay silent, to stay still. The next morning, Sarah's friends woke to find her pale and shaken, her eyes hollow with fear. She recounted the events of the night, and though Jake tried to brush it off as a bad dream, the others weren't so sure. The group decided to stick together that day, exploring the area around the cabin. They ventured into the forest, the tall pines casting long shadows that seemed to follow them. The air was thick with tension, every rustle of leaves making them jumpy. As the sun began to set, they found themselves near the entrance of a cave. Curiosity overcame their fear, and they ventured inside, their flashlights piercing the inky darkness. The cave walls were adorned with ancient petroglyphs, depicting scenes of hunts, rituals, and strange, shape-shifting figures. "Look at this," Jake called out, pointing to a particular set of carvings. It showed a figure wearing the skin of a wolf, its eyes glaring menacingly. "Looks like your Skinwalker story, Sarah." But Sarah wasn't listening. She was staring deeper into the cave, where the shadows seemed to pulse and writhe. A sense of dread washed over her, and she felt the pull of something ancient, something malevolent. "We need to leave," she whispered, backing away. The others followed her gaze, their faces paling as they saw what she saw. A figure emerged from the darkness, its form shifting between that of a man and a beast, eyes glowing with an unnatural light. They fled the cave, the creature's guttural growl echoing behind them. They ran through the forest, the trees closing in like the bars of a cage. The wind howled, carrying the whispered names of each one of them. Back at the cabin, they barricaded themselves inside, their breaths ragged with fear. The whispers grew louder, more insistent as the night wore on. One by one, the friends succumbed to the eerie call, stepping outside as if in a trance never to return. Sarah was the last. She resisted as long as she could, but the whispers were relentless, wearing down her sanity. As dawn approached, she could no longer fight it. She stepped outside, the cold wind wrapping around her like a shroud. The Skinwalker waited, its eyes glowing with triumph. It wore the skins of her friends, their lifeless eyes staring out at her in silent plea. She felt a sharp pain as darkness enveloped her, her screams swallowed by the wind. In the light of day, the cabin stood silent and empty, a testament to the ancient terror that lurked in the shadows. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the names of those who had fallen to the Skinwalker. their fate sealed by the darkness that prowled the night.